Hi, everyone. Thanks for making time to join us for this Turbo Talk. I'm Sam Pierre. I am the Product Marketing Manager for Threat Research at Palo Alto Networks, and here with me is my colleague, Jay Caffey, Systems Engineer Manager, also at Palo Alto Networks, and we're going to talk to you a bit about just how we can use AutoFocus tool, a service that we offer at Palo Alto Networks for threat hunting, and we'll do that in 15 minutes or less. So Palo Alto Networks is a next-generation security company with a mission to protect our digital way of life by stopping successful cyber attacks. And we do this several ways, including through our next-generation security platform, which employs a breach protection-based approach to automatically stopping threats across the attack lifecycle, and through human-curated threat intelligence. That's Unit 42. Unit 42 is the Palo Alto Networks threat intelligence team, and the key to what this group does for Palo Alto Networks is it focuses on adversaries, what resources they have, what motivations drive them to conduct attacks, and which tactics they use when they're targeting our customers. We want to give customers and the greater security community more context around the adversaries going against their networks. We want to be able to show you if this is a cyber criminal or a hacktivist. We want to tell you the indicators of compromise they're using to down the kill train. And the goal is to better understand these adversaries, how they operate, and the tactics they use, so we can get this information to the people who can do the most with it, which is you guys. Now I want to introduce you to that tool that I mentioned before, AutoFocus. It's used by Unit 42, our threat researchers, to hunt across threat intelligence data, which is aggregated from our global ecosystem of customers, third-party sources, and from the criminal underground. AutoFocus is our cloud-based threat intelligence service, and it was actually originally built internally as an internal tool for our researchers, and it's to enable fast searching, analysis, and correlation over large data sets. AutoFocus is the primary analysis tool used by Unit 42 to identify new threats, correlate global data, and identify connections between malicious samples, and to build adversary or campaign profiles. Now AutoFocus is also used by security operators and first responders to discover important threats on their network and distinguish commodity threats from target attacks. And you can use AutoFocus without actually purchasing other pieces of the platform. It is a standalone service. It's built on top of WildFire, which is our cloud-based threat intelligence service, so natively integrated into the WildFire dataset. And WildFires are, again, our dynamic threat analysis service, and customers submit hundreds of unknown samples per day. WildFire has over 110 billion artifacts and receive about tens of thousands of files per day for analysis. The job of WildFire is to determine the verdict of a sample. Is it malicious or is it benign? While AutoFocus gives you more context around the malware itself. Now imagine you're a security operator, not a difficult exercise, and someone submits a suspicious domain and asks you to investigate. We're going to look at this, we'll call it Chrome Update, shorten it. And it's a potentially malicious domain, and it's an interesting indicator, but that's all the information that you have at this point. AutoFocus can help you understand the DNS activity for Chrome Update and help you find pieces of malware that have contacted this domain in the past. So now I'll walk you through, Jay and I will walk you through this demo. Yeah, what Jay's pointing out here is we've got 147 samples, malicious samples that WildFire has detected, and it's available for searching in AutoFocus. So you can put the domain in the search bar and look for all samples. These are all the publicly submitted samples from customers and or data that the researchers have entered, or again, third-party partners. You can see that within WildFire, there are 25 malicious samples that fit the criteria that you're looking for. Domains containing Chrome Update. WildFire has determined the verdict, and you can see the file type, when the file was first seen. If you scroll down, you see more than a few portable executables. And that's okay, but the portable executables show you what happens in the middle of the attack. And if you're doing this threat hunting, you really want to find a delivery doc if it's available. So again, portable, executable, but you scroll down and you see a Word document. The Word document is a good place to pivot, and we see two of them. Let's look at the oldest one and see what we can learn. If you click on the SHA-256 hash and drill down, you can look at the specific example, and what you're looking at here is an AutoFocus report. You can see the sandboxes where the samples were tested, and the report breaks down uninteresting items in its behavior, suspect items, and highly suspect items. It breaks it down into file activity, process activity, and DNS activity, and so on. If you're a first responder, one of the first things you want to do is see exactly what the domain does. DNS activity is a great indicator of what's going on with this malware file, and there are 5 matches you can see. The highly suspect categorization is actually based off of the 3 columns that you see there. You can see 3 different bubbles, one for blue, red, and gray. Blue is for benign files, red is for malicious files, and gray for grayware. Those columns tell you that out of the 3 billion samples within, overall samples within Wildfire, the number of total benign, malicious, or grayware files, and grayware files that we're seeing exhibiting this behavior. And what this DNS line is showing is we saw a DNS request for the domain Chrome update, and this was the response that it received. And we see something interesting here. 3 malicious samples made DNS requests for a specific domain, and that's indicated by the 1. You see a slightly different domain at the very end. And before we pivot again, let's just take a look at the process activity. Jay's highlighting that the Microsoft file has actually launched a PowerShell process to download something from this now 1 Chrome update. The file reached out to this new domain to pull down the file. So that's something interesting that we will want to explore. But what about the other two malicious samples? We looked at the 3. Let's do a search on, again, that 1 Chrome update is interesting. Let's drill down and see what we can learn there. All right. We come across the two DLL files again. It's looking more likely that these are part of the payload or at least related to it. And can you conclude this for sure? You'd have to do more investigation here, but it shows this just shows how you started with a random indicator, and then you were able to use AutoFocus to identify a second-level domain, potentially C2 activity, and maybe even the URL to retrieve the actual files. In this second, oh, perfect, the hash is up there. Now say that you were given a hash to investigate, same concept, just like very limited information. You have this hash, but that's all. Go ahead and investigate. Now what? You can enter the hash into the search bar again. We discovered that that 1 file is associated with the hash. It's a Word document. Wildfire has flagged it as malware, and it was first seen in December 2016. But what does it do? Let's go to File Activity, or double-click and then go into File Activity. Again, we see that this Word document is using PowerShell. To do what? Not sure. But we see that for many of these behaviors, only 1 sample has been seen. And because of that, it may not be the best pivot point, because this could be a randomly generated temp file. If you scroll down to the, from the highly suspect behaviors to just the suspect behaviors, now you quickly find yourself in the 7,000 or 70,000 range, and this is too broad. That huge number indicates that this is a common process for Word. So again, uninteresting information here. A little frozen. My screen froze up.
Get out of presenter mode and just look at it.
Okay, and switch back. All right, let's go to process activity. All right, now here in process activity, you can see again, this Word doc created a process using PowerShell, and it ran a base 64 string. So again, you know something here is being hidden. And if we look at the number of malicious samples, you'll pull up there are 5. A very small number of malicious files have exhibited this behavior, which means it could be useful for pivoting and finding other samples that are similar to this one's, others that are related to this attack that we're analyzing now. So let's, the question that you want to answer is like, what exactly is this malicious document doing on the host? We know something is being hidden, we don't know what, and it could be more than one delivery document at this point. So let's look at the base 64 string in a new search. All samples, and we've got, let's see, 5 documents. At this point, you'll want to inspect all of the documents to see what's in them, understand why people are opening it, what type of information it might contain. Again, you're collecting additional data points for your threat intelligence. So now we've gone from having a random hash that we didn't know anything about to a file that contained a base 64 string to a total of 5 documents, and now you're digging into each one. Let's investigate. We want to see, like, what are the chances of the 5 different documents having the exact same base 64? Very slim. So again, let's look at the oldest document, see what we can learn there. You'll notice that process activity is highlighted because that's what we did the search on. But let's look at HTTP requests. And there's one highly suspect item there. We can see that the document is going to a domain. The Word doc is talking to analytics.google.org, and there's a get method request to retrieve something. AutoFocus is showing you that 3 malicious samples have engaged in this type of command and control behavior. If you do a new search on the analytics google.org, when we do a new search on this domain, let's see. We see other Word documents, another Word document, and 3 portable executables are going to the domain. So again, you started with a hash. You discovered, you saw that something was being hidden using base 64. You discovered 5 potential delivery documents and suspected command and control domain. And now it's led you to 2 documents and 3 potential payloads that touch that domain. In both cases, this demo and the previous one, you started with a limited amount of information, and you were able to use, started with an unknown and work your way to an indicator of compromise. So what AutoFocus really makes possible is threat hunting on easy mode. We can switch back. Okay, perfect. So let's see. Actually, can we switch back and look at the tags? If you hover over that tag. Thanks. So the real beauty and magic of AutoFocus is that Unit 42, our threat researchers, they're always doing this work for you. Both pieces of data that we just looked at are related to the Magic Count campaign, which was discovered by Unit 42 as a persistent attack campaign in the Middle East around mid-2016. And as new threats are identified, such as like Magic Count and others, Unit 42 adds new tags to the AutoFocus service. So you can actually go in there and tag, not only search for unknown, but also just tag, search by these tags. With AutoFocus and the platform, users can determine how a targeted or unique threat is seen on the, or how unique a threat is on the network. You can see related malicious samples for further investigation and domain resolution history to identify suspicious DNS queries. All users have access to this unique researcher curated contacts from Unit 42, and where they're always looking for malware families, adversaries, malicious behaviors, and the exploits being used. Again, AutoFocus is a standalone service. However, for Palo Alto Networks customers, you can easily tag indicators as interesting, and if they're ever seen on your network, you can automatically deploy protections to your network. This slide here is just about resources. If you're interested in learning more about autofocus, feel free to stop by booth number 2, where we'll be. You can also visit the autofocus page. Check out Unit 42's research blog or sign up for our newsletter where you'll be the first to learn about just malicious actors that our team is going out and finding. And of course, you can always email me if you want information or want to get a demo after the conference is over. Thank you.